Hey team, another episode of Journey with Michael and Ryan. Got the two lads in the hot seat again. It's good to be together again for a few more weeks, man.
Oh yes, sir. It's great to be back. It's great. Honestly, it's good to have some normality back in life and like schedule and things. Although we're everywhere and only in a place of a few amount of time, at least there's routine and purpose.
There is. Yeah, it's good, man. It's only taking a couple of weeks to land.
Totally. Yeah, for sure. To settle back into the energy of New Zealand, definitely taken a few weeks. Different place, different people, different culture. A calm but chaotic energy is what I felt like. New Zealand's such a peaceful place, but then it's so busy.
Yeah. It's cool, man. And on your new grounding, you're jumping into new philosophies, new learnings, new routines, new spiritual techniques, practices, all the things,
all the technologies.
Yeah.
I mean, this what we're actually going to go in today is like something that just dropped into me today, and it's actually something that we speak about a lot, realistically. But it's cool to have these moments, or when you're going through these different teachings, to like reflect on like what sort of come to you intuitively, and then what's the teachings that have actually been around for an extended period of time. So we're going to essentially go into a passage of a book by Dr. Ouspensky. He's a Russian philosopher who really went into Hermeticism. And so Hermetic wisdom, or the Hermetic philosophy, has essentially been around before time. It is what the mystics used to learn and teach. It's where they think Jesus disappeared for those 7 years, was to go to learn Hermeticism. It's where all the great philosophers, artists, teachers, for those periods of time where it's they don't know where they went, they essentially went to learn Hermeticism, or a form of it, or a concept of it, or a philosophy that grew off it. So I was reading the book today. It's called The Psychology of Man's Possible Evolution. Should I read the passage?
Set us up with the passage, because this is what we're going to talk about today. It's a beautiful passage.
All right, so this is the first lecture. It's about the first thing that he goes into. Our fundamental idea shall be that man, as we know him, is not a complete being. That nature develops him only to a certain point, and then leaves him to develop further by his own efforts and devices, or to live and die such as he was born, or to degenerate and lose capacity for development. Evolution of man in this case will mean that development of certain inequalities and features which usually remain undeveloped and cannot develop by themselves. Experience and observation shows that this development is possible only in certain defined conditions, with efforts of a certain kind on the part of the man himself, and with the sufficient help of those who began similar work before, or have already obtained a certain degree of development, or at least a certain knowledge of method. We must start with the idea that without efforts, evolution is impossible. Without help, it is also impossible. After this, we must understand that in the way of development, man must become a different being, and we must learn and understand in what sense and in which direction man must become a different being. With a difference in being. It's a beautiful thing. Then what it goes into next is actually around the questions that come from that. And it goes into the idea that why is it that all men can't develop? So it says, this must understand that all men cannot develop and become different beings. Evolution is the question of personal efforts in relation to the mass of humanity's evolution. It is a rare exception. It may sound strange, but we must realize that it's not only rare, but is becoming even more and more rare for men to develop.
It's definitely the nature of the beast right now, isn't it?
It is the nature of the beast.
You know, there's a war on everything and everyone and every ideology and every gender and every, there's just a war on it all, and wherever you want to, what side of any of the infinite fence you want to sit on, you will find a community and you'll find evidence to support and back that up.
Totally.
But this is very prevalent to what we speak about all the time.
Totally.
It's actually, it just sums it up really well. It's like, nature will get you to a certain point, then it's on you. No one's coming to save you.
Totally.
It's on you, and then it gives you the credence as to why some people don't actually go into the evolution state of higher levels for themselves.
That's it. It takes your want, your need, your desire, and surrounding yourself with other people that are wanting to develop for you to actually develop. Because it goes into a few questions after that, and one of the main questions is, why cannot all men develop and become different? Why is there this injustice?
Yeah.
And that injustice is there, and he goes on to say the injustice is there because you will only develop if you choose to and you want to. If you are unwilling to develop, then you will only go as far as nature takes you.
Yeah. Do you think that it's a nature... how do I put this? Do you think that it's a nature driver for you to have that development want within you? Like, where do you think that comes from?
The question of nature versus nurture.
Yes and no. But it's a question of God and spark, I guess, as well, right? Times around.
I think we all have our own nature that will take us to a certain point, and where that point would probably be different for every person. And that could be based on, if you believe in reincarnation, it could be based on what lessons you've had in past lives and what you've chosen to learn in this life.
But it's still all yours because you're here right now with it all.
Yeah, for sure. And what is nature? Like, when you even look at that concept, what is nature? Is it what's natural to us, or is it the natural environment that we grew up in, the lessons that were thrown at us?
Yeah.
Like, is it our nature, or is it just the surroundings and the lessons we are willing to gather from that?
Yeah. I watched a really interesting, I don't watch a lot of Netflix, but every now and then we'll be on the road and Netflix will be around, and I watched this. It was a documentary, I think. It was on these triplets, and what happened is one of the triplets. So there were 3 triplets. None of them knew they were triplets. They all got separated at birth, and none of them knew that they were part of a trio. So one of them went to this college one year in the 70s, and he rocked in, and all these people started saying hello to him, and and people were like, "Hey, what's going on?" And he walked into his dorm room, and some guy comes in and he's like, "Hey, what's going on?" And he basically was like, "I don't know who you think this guy is, but it's not me. My name is," I can't remember now. And he's like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "No, my name's so-and-so. I'm from so-and-so." He goes, my best mate looks exactly like you. Hold on. So they ran to this phone box, rang up, and they were like, "Hey, I've got someone here who looks exactly like you." Went around there and they were like, "Boom, holy shit, we're twins." We got
Separated
adopted out through the same adoption agency, etc. Anyway, so there's a big story on it. Anyways, and then a few months later, out of the woodwork, someone from another part of the state in New York was like, "Hey, there's another guy that looks like you," and it became a triplet, right? So you go through the whole scenario of it. Now they started to get together, and none of them knew about each other. None of them understood each other, but there were very surface level idiosyncrasies that were actually inside the genetics that they were really playing on. And so what the documentary actually does quite well, it does not towards the end of the nature versus nurture thing. Like, if you were looking at the similarities, you'll find the similarities, but the differences were far more and far larger because of the nurture aspect of the different families. And what actually went around, it was this adoption agency, they were finding twins and triplets and things and splitting them out for a psychological test to see about the nature versus nurture, and the findings never got published or anything, and they're locked up at I think Stanford till like 2050 or something like that, and they've gone through. It's a really interesting, and if you look at it through that lens of the nature versus nurture and where you get to, yes, they had lots of similarities, and when you first watched it, you're like, wow, like, what is free will if we're just born into these genetics of what this is? Like, none of them knew each other. They smoked the same cigarettes and this and that. It's like, But if you actually look at the differences, I mean, one of them ended up killing himself. They started a business together, but they still had to relearn. Like it's a really interesting documentary. I forget what it's called, but it's about these triplets that go through. But what was another little tidbit on this tale was when the parents kind of gathered, the reporter did a lot of digging into this adoption agency, and other twins started popping up of being split and then having a study, and they told the parents when they adopted it out that they were just coming to a study of adopted children, right? Not that they had twins. They never even knew as well, so they got kind of done over for that, I think, a little bit. But those psychological tests back in the day were wild, man.
Totally.
But it's super interesting to watch, because how far will nature get you? Then how far will it take upon yourself to then go? But where does that willingness come from to want to go further? Yeah. Is it a pain aspect? I mean, or is there something that pain switches on? And I don't mean like just physical pain. I'm like pain of life, pain of whatever it is that you're created and stuck in, or like what is that? How are we here? Like I still reflect on. I'm like, man, I see most of the people that I kind of grew up with, and doing very different things that I'm doing. Like why was it that why did I choose to go on a different path? Like what was it in me? It was really interesting.
And he says it, like, why is there that injustice? Why is it that we have been given the opportunity, or where did we find the willingness from? For me personally, it came through pain. It came through me laying in a bathtub fucking wanting to kill myself.
Yeah, mine was sitting in my car after picking up antidepressant meds for third year running, and just not being able to get out of the car and going, what the fuck am I doing?
100%. And the pain got to a point so much where I said something has to fucking change, and I'm willing to let everything else go because I know that there's something different. And then that just drove me to where we are today. Through every single moment. But it's through that, like the want to self-inquire to a deep level, and allowing every situation that comes about to be an opportunity for growth, and seeing and surrounding yourself with different teachers at different times. Like for me, the first aspect was meditation and boxing. Like boxing was the thing that actually physically got me moving forward and gave me something to do outside of myself, and a purpose and meaning, and something that I was looking for. And then I was able to use that same like desire for growth and betterment and throwing it into personal development in myself.
Yeah, that's true, man. So the psychology of man, what is even possible, sounds like a powerful book.
Yeah, well, it was written in 1920. And he essentially wrote this book after he wrote his second book, which was written like 15 years earlier, because people just kept coming to him with the same questions about life. And so that's why he wrote that book. He said, it's too hard for me to answer these questions in specific letters. So he dedicated like 5 years into writing this book. And it was recommended to us by David. It's not a big book, but from the 2 pages that I've read and spent half an hour thinking about afterwards, there's going to be a lot of insights in it. Yeah.
It's like the other movie he recommended we watched the other night. What is it called? The League of Remarkable Men?
No, a Meeting of Remarkable Men.
A Meeting of Remarkable Men. It's on YouTube. If you haven't heard of it, I'd never heard of it until we watched it the other night. It was made in the 70s, actually. But a super powerful Hermetic inspired movie. Just about it's the real hero's journey, I would imagine. It's not the hero's journey we're led to believe. It's actually the one of self journey, and then finally getting to the point of your hero's journey where you've done it. But that's only where it starts. And you're actually standing there wearing the weight and the burden of having to then learn your craft, learn your magic, learn who you are, remember who you are, and then actually go back out into the world.
And then take it out into the world.
And take it out into the world. All while the forces that are coming at you are far bigger and far larger, and you've got to be able to maneuver them, work with them, however the forces of the world. And that's,
well, it's like literally the last line in the movie was around him stepping back into the world, but also remaining in his heart space, and the pulls that the world is going to take you out of your heart space. And as this wisdom was spat to him essentially through the character that was depicted as God. He just...
Well, you
and
felt
then the
weight.
movie ends.
Yeah.
And both me and you were like...
I feel you, man.
Oh God, why do I stay in my heart and all of this?
I know.
Yeah, but and it's and it's just another opportunity for learning. So it's like, for me, it's like I've always been drawn to philosophy, and it's like I really want to dedicate myself to the education of it now.
Nice.
Because it's I enjoy it. I just really enjoy it. I enjoy the opportunity to see perspectives that were from the 1920s but still have so much relevance now. Like, how is that possible? You know, it's only possible if it's an ultimate truth. Like,
Totally.
There's going to be certain things that you learn that resonate regardless of whether it's 1920 or whether it's, 2220.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a very Moses undertone story in that movie as well, of the remarkable men.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not religious in any form of concept of deity, of holding a being in the sky that is overlooking, or go to a church to serve a being. For me, it's far beyond that of what my definition of God. I mean, God is self. God is just love. It's the source. It's it is the consciousness of the whole universe, really, right? So when these fables, they run through, they are stories that have been told of the evolution of our own consciousness. It's just been hijacked by a few groups that could see it to use it as control. But if you really look below it, look beyond it, it ultimately is about keeping your heart open. It's about expanding your love.
Yeah, totally. And I think another theme throughout that movie was that evil never wins, because you could see the aspects of society that was trying to be controlled also throughout the movie as a subtle undertone, and showing that essentially love always wins. And it's like these forces that are forcing us to get fucking jabbed and fucking running interest rates up and controlling us through the subtleties of television and the way in which they
just
infiltrate
anything and everything, man. It's all a very, and this is not a conspiracy rabbit hole. This is just, if you actually just look at the structure of main institutions, it's based off fear. Like, if you don't pay your parking fine, they send you a well-enforced letter to drive and spike a fear in you, and there'll be another enforcement fee after it, and they'll get another letter, See what happens when you let it run out.
Yeah, totally. And
nothing really fucking happens.
And it's they're trying to create a society where people don't have the time and space to be able to work on themselves, so that men can't fucking be men because they're so stressed and worried about finances. But it's like, it's our job as men to choose. Make the fucking choice. It's not fucking easy.
It's not easy.
It's hard. But for good to win, we have to remain in our heart space and continually work on ourselves. And you will get to a level where you naturally are comfortable, and then you can choose to dig deeper or you can choose not. And it's like, that's where the nature of it is. It's like, what's right is there is no right or level or place that you need to get to. It's just not about like transcending earth and becoming into matter or living forever, some crazy people want to do. But it's like, it's knowing and understanding that your journey is your journey, and that you will get on and you will get off when you need to, but never stop the pursuit. And don't do it from a detrimental place, doing it from a place of love, because you are a man, and that is essentially the evolution of it. And that's essentially why we're here. Like, that's the first teaching, is for you to know and understand that.
It's amazing. It's a burden as well as a gift.
Totally.
Because the burden helps grow you stronger in every facet, and the gift is that it helps grow you stronger in every 100%. Facet.
Totally. And when the burden presents itself, you can choose to be a victim to it, or you can choose for it to be another opportunity to growth. Even though it may hurt, even though you might think that you're doing enough. Talking from my own personal experiences recently, you can choose different, because it's your choice, and anything outside of that just takes away from your own power.
does.
You know, you may be battling with addiction, you may be battling with drugs, you may be battling with abuse towards yourself or your partner, or you may just be an asshole. But you staying in that is your choice, and the reason you're staying in that is because you haven't chose strong enough to change.
Yeah. Or you haven't gone to seek outside of a little bit more outside
maybe you
of
haven't
what it
looked
is.
for or found the right support, so don't stop looking. You know, as it says, it's like you cannot do this alone, nor should you even try.
You know,
like seek and get support.
Well, we all have the wolf and we all have the rabbit.
That's it.
And it's not about finding the balance. It's not about getting to the balance. It's just being in the process of finding balance is where you'll find the balance. And you'll never get to equally balanced. It's never going to happen. You know, we're not a set of scales where you're like, oh, a little bit more this, a little bit more this. I'm balanced. Now I'm balanced.
Perfect.
It's like, no, it's not that.
And then you have to work on staying balanced.
Yeah.
And then you get a little bit off kilter, and then you're like, why am I unbalanced?
I know, because you use the balance as now
as a goal.
The goal rather than just in it. And I think that's in process of the world, of your life. It's constantly just in the procurement of seeking. It's like that movie Hitchhiker's Guide for the Galaxy. You know, they travel all around, they hitchhike all around. It's a deep philosophical soiree of understandability, right?
Both nonsense and insight.
Yeah, it's great because ultimately what the biggest thing is that they, you know, most people have seen the movie, but there's a great book in it as well. But what the premise is they search all the universe, they go through all these different things. They find the supercomputer that is all knowledgeable, all ultimately God, right? Then the computer goes, come back in 2,000 years and I'll have the answer for you. And because the answer is, the question they were asking is, what's the meaning of life? What's the meaning of the universe? And so they go around, waits 2,000 years, all of a sudden it's there now. There's celebrations from all the different, you know, planets and universes, and they're all converging. And the computer goes, well, I've really, really thought about this. She goes, I got an answer, but you're not going to like it. And they're like, what is that? And the answer is 42. And they're like, what? What the fuck is that? They go, yep, I've done all my calculations. This is the answer. What is 42? So in the spectrum of that, it's actually not the answer that's going to give you the answer. It is actually in the search of the question. It's finding the right question, and then in the question will give you the answers. But it's not searching for the answer and getting to an answer. Yeah. It's not. It's actually in the process of the search.
Totally.
Where you'll find and gain your knowledge and wisdom.
So the journey is the destination. It's the things that you learn about yourself and about others, and just the pursuit of the knowledge that actually gives you the knowledge. Yeah.
Isn't it funny? You reflect back on being at school and things like that, and you're so taught to be, you know. I was having a conversation with my little sister the other day. She's 15, and she's in high school, and she does very well. She studies very hard. In New Zealand, you've got a system called NCA, so I think you get excellent, merit and achieved. It's like the top 3, and she got like excellent for quite a few, and she got a merit for a couple. And she was like, oh, like I should have got this and that about getting an excellent and getting a merit. I said, what if your friend came up to you and said, hey, I got a merit in this? What would your first response be? She goes, oh, I would congratulate them. I would say, well done. I say, so why don't you say the same thing to yourself? Why is it that you only see the part that you missed to get to the excellence? I think merit's amazing. And I'm going to ask you this. Did you do everything that you could to try and get an excellence? She goes, yeah, I did. I said, well, that's all that fucking matters. It doesn't actually matter what you've got as long as you've put everything into trying to get the thing that you want.
And only you know if you've given it
absolutely
100%.
And then I said to her, then the self-reflection on this is the times that you didn't.
Totally.
How can I hold myself to a higher standard, you know, or did I need that rest? Or that's the examination. It's not the examination of how can I get better for that? It's actually the self-examination on your output and your effort into the thing that you wanted to get. And so it's this kind of mind shift, right? Because I take it back. So a lot of our schooling system is like, well, I don't think anymore. Everyone kind of gets participants and things like that. So that's not doing anyone any favors. But you're still geared to just constantly being on outcome orientations, right? Like study, learn, and remember this. Now recite it.
And
Study, learn, remember, recite. That's the program. You know, I'm not very good at remembering and reciting things, but I'm a genius in other things. You know, it was lucky that in my younger years at school, I was quite really good at some things, and the things that I liked, I became very good at very quickly. But the things I didn't, I just lagged behind.
Oh, and even in that, but that's just your perspective.
Yeah.
Just because that wasn't your genius doesn't mean that it doesn't serve for other people. Because there's a lot of people that do still thrive in that system.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just saying it's not. It's not a system
that was designed for you.
That's designed, for me and other people like me, and that's okay. But it is designed for probably more people that it's designed for than it isn't.
Totally, and I think the fault in that is we're noticing when people don't fit that mold, and then giving them an opportunity to thrive in their own way. And that's where Montessori's is great, because it gives people the opportunity to thrive into whatever they want to thrive into.
Yeah, and all the Steiner education, all the good things there. There's lots of different avenues.
But the system is broken.
But also, it could be it's broken there to help, push you to whatever.
Yeah, totally.
Well.
I mean, the schooling system is there to teach you one thing, and it's to sit for 8 hours and do as you're told. Because that's what most people are going to do for the rest of their lives. And that's essentially what they want, because they want us to be stressed. They want us to do the mundane things. They don't want us to self-actualize and actually have the ability to train to think for ourselves, because that's just another form of oppression, right? It's not going to give them the opportunity. It's like, why is it that we didn't read this book when we were fucking 9, 10, 11 and come back to it when we were 18 years old? Why is it that it took till I was 33 to learn about Hermeticism? Why isn't that where the basis of a lot of religions come from? Why is that not the one source of truth? Why are we arguing over what's right when we already know what's right, but that's too powerful to teach people? And it's one of those things. It's like they're not doing that to us right now. They've been doing it forever. It's just it's present to us right now.
Yeah, and it's just turned into our system. And humans are very good at adapting into systems, and so anything over a long period of time will fall into adaptation of it. So this is why some people might be listening to this and go, "Jesus, a radical conversation." Well, we're not radicals at all. We're just exercising our expansive thirst for more.
Totally, and to just have a conversation around what's possible.
Yeah, I agree.
And what's truth for us in this present moment. Because what's truth for us now may not be truth for us in 5 years, and it wasn't truth for us 10 years ago.
Brother, I listen back. I know there's some podcast episodes we've done within this podcast, so I'm like, that's not even truth anymore for me.
We've evolved past.
That was where I was at that point.
Totally.
I mean, nothing's an untruth, but I'm like, I've actually maneuvered that, or whatever I was talking about that I was working towards, I've worked towards, so that goalpost has shifted a little bit more. So constantly moving, constantly evolving. Where do you think you are in your depth of your Hermeticism philosophy? Where would you like to go with it?
I would like to surround myself with more people that understand it more than I do, so that I can actually start to grasp the concepts, because it's like there's only all of the perceptions and knowledge that I have gained from reading, one book on it, and the second book that I'm starting now is just my own interpretation, and I can only interpret it from where I'm at, and I know that there's certain aspects that I can only understand to a certain level, and if I go back and learn and reread it again from a different perspective or a different understanding, then I'll take a different lesson away from it. But I want to surround myself with more people who know and understand it, so that I can just have deeper conversations like this to grasp the concepts even more.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those ones to sit around and digest. And
oh man,
talk about it.
It'll be a life's work, I think.
100%.
Totally.
Yeah, I definitely think so.
And I love that.
It's beautiful that you bring it here, because not a lot of people might even understand even heard the word Hermeticism. Might be attributed to some sort of different faith or anything like that, but it's actually just the philosophy on life, being, starting.
Totally. So yeah, I guess the biggest thing to take away from us piecing this apart in real time is just that it's your choice. It's your choice, and you have to want it. And that want might start as something small. It may grow. The want might only ever be something small.
Yeah.
And that's all got to do with your own personal nature or the situations that you've been brought up. But just know that even if you just wanted a little bit, or you want things to change, like you could do it from two ways. You may either want something, or you may just want things to be different. So either way, those are still a want, and they can be your driver. So surround yourself with people that are doing what you want, or may see the world in the way in which you want to, and be willing to learn, to understand, to grow, to fucking have to drag yourself through the nonsense and the shit, and to...
I think in layman's terms, it's just like willing to look like a dick, like willing to look like you don't know what you're doing, willing to look like,
So white belt mentality.
Yeah.
And it's like, even when I was reading this book, I was like, man, I know this concept, but I'm going to read this book as if I have no understanding of anything. Because then I know I'm going to take the most out of it. I'm not just going to brush over things like, oh, I already know this. Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, of course you have to want it.
It's the embodiment of it rather than just the taking of the messaging and passing it on.
Totally.
So they're two different things. It's like having a business studies professor. Where are you going to learn more from? A business studies professor that's gone through the education system and can understand all of the principles and share them back through, or somebody who's run and failed and been a success or tried their own businesses and passing on that experience and knowledge. Because there's an embodied process of wisdom, then there's just a passing on of somebody else's knowledge of wisdom.
Yeah, for sure.
One you're a channel, one you're an embodiment of it.
For sure. There's like knowledge and lived experience, and
both are okay too.
Okay. Yeah, for sure.
There's no one better, but I just know that me personally, I resonate better from people doing the things and telling me about their experiences rather than trying to teach me from someone else's teachings. And that's the way that I teach and coach and conversate with. A, I never tell anyone how to live. B, I only speak about from my own personal experiences and my own downfalls and sometimes wins. Definitely talk about my falls a lot more than my wins, though.
100%. It's because we're two self-deprecating human beings, Mike. We've been told this before.
I know, man. I know. So I think this will pop up again. I think once you go deeper into it.
I think so.
Like even all that Sufi mysticism and all the good things, man. It all comes from that. All that Sufi dancing.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh man,
I want to get into some weird shit.
Get into the weird. Why not? Hey.
And see what magic and mysticism is truly all about. All right, beautiful people. I think that's where we're going to wrap it up today.
I think we are. That was fun.
It was fun.
I like it. And if you are wondering why there's a deleted podcast episode from last week, well, I got asked to remove it.
That's all we can say about that.
So there's that. There'll be another one coming soon.
But something that we did actually mention on the last podcast that did get deleted is Atlas's Open World Theatre 2-day immersion. That's coming up in June.
Yep. So if you go back to episode 10 or 14, I think it's called The Game of Life with Atlas Talisman, go back and listen to that. He is an absolute chess master at 4D chess, and it's 4D chess's life. He's just an amazing human. He's coming back over to New Zealand for running a deep immersion of his own created philosophy of life called Open World Theatre. Have a look at his website, openworldtheatre.com. We're going to put it down in the show notes. 8th and 9th of June here in Tauranga in New Zealand. It's a 2-day training, deep immersive. Me and Ryan will be there, a bunch of other epic humans. So if you want to come and have a play, have a dance, move into some aliveness, some really cool edges, vulnerability, and all the things in between, go and have a look. Love to see you there.
Love you, fam.
Shoo!